afternoon, everyone. My name is Lloyd Mhlongo, and I'm from the University of Johannesburg in South Africa. I'm currently working on my PhD on the ethnobotany of the Zulu people. Can you hear me? Do I press here?
Yes, just go ahead and talk.
Okay.
I guess you have to talk.
All right.
Go ahead and talk.
Okay. So I'm working on the useful plants by the Zulu people in an area called Amandawe in South Africa. So who are the Zulu people? Zulu people are the great descendants of Bantu people who migrated from around Greater Africa down, and they ended up in Southern They found their home in the eastern parts of South Africa, where you see the red dot. And one of the most recognizable Zulu persons is King Shaka Zulu, who molded this group to be what it is today. And the study area is in Amandawe, just where you see the red dot, which is a coastal area in South Africa. And I happen to be from the community. I know the language, the style, the community, the culture, everything about them. And I'm very excited to present information of my own people. So knowledgeable people were identified from all age groups and different sexes. And we got ethnobotanists from the University of Johannesburg to carry on with our study. As part of materials and methods, people were shown an example of a flip file, which is a page with a plant photo showing different parts of the plant. And then they were asked 2 questions if they could recognize the plant. And they were given a score of 1, as you can see on the matrix table, given a score of 1 if they recognize it. If they had a name, they're given 2. If they had any use, they're given 3. And then right across, you could then calculate an SPI of how popular the plant species is amongst the people. And going down, each score for each person would then be calculated at the bottom to see how much knowledge they had of those plants in total. So like I said, this is part of a bigger ethnobotanical study of the area. In total, there were 584 species that were known to have traditional uses by the Zulu people in the area. But now our focus is on craft plants. So overall, there were 270 plant species of craft plants used in the area, and they were spread out in 77 plant families. We then took all the uses and categorized them into 10 different use categories. What was interesting is that there were 577 new Zulu use records that were documented in the study alone. Now I'm going to run through the results and example of plant species that were interesting and more popular. So what you see there is a typical apparatus of farm making by friction using a reciprocation method, where you have a male stick that you spin back and forth, and it's a male stick, and then a female stick, which is a board that you spin onto, and then through friction, it creates dust, and then start blowing, you get embers. So popular species used in this spindles are Macabella and the Sana rugosa. Once you've got the fire going, you could then use the Digitaria africana to preserve fire because it burns long. So it can just burn all day long, all night, and communities sometimes share these coals with their neighbors. Okay, then still on, okay, now we move to firewood. So generally people can take any plant species and use it as firewood, but they do have specific plant species that are got specific timber qualities that are most preferred. So these are some of the examples. And then usually firewood collection is mostly by women. So they try by all means to try and save the amount of firewood they have. So usually people sit around the fire, have stories, chat all night. So what women do is to avoid the wasting of the wood. They will take a piece of Hippopotamus passiflorus and stick it into the fire because it gives a very, it sparks, like exploding sparks. In that way, it disperses the people, so they know it's time to stop. So to your right, you have a few plant species that are avoided as firewood for numerous reasons. For example, Syzygium reclinata is preserved for other uses, so it is regarded as being sacred, so you can't use it. And then fighting sticks. So Generally, as a Zulu person, you are required to have at least 2 fighting species from a young age. So wherever you go, you carry these 2 sticks for fighting and any other stuff. So with these species, because they sometimes sometimes serve as accessories, so you carry them around, they have to look good. Hence the appearance of the bark sometimes. And then for fighting and other stuff, it depends on the quality. Are they pliable? Are they strong? Are they heavy? And things like that. So to your right are other popular plant species used to make fighting sticks. And then when it comes to hut building, 3 important factors are important here. The timber or plant species used for rafters have got to be very straight and strong, and preferably termite resistant. And then for wall buttons, they have to have some ability to curve, to allow for curving. Whereas for roof battens, they must be highly pliable. They must bend to follow the circumference. And as a bonus, they have to sometimes have a nice bark finishing to create a very nice appearance on the inside on the underside of the thatch. And then when it comes to thatch mats and brooms, these are women's specialities. So you've got 2 popular plant species used as thatch grass. And an interesting plant here is Sclerocarya sylvatica. Like most Sclerocarya found in the area, they will take the stem, put in boiling water, batter it, and make string. That string can also then be they will then take one of the Tessus capra stick, make a needle-like tool to sew through the thatch. And then with mats, Cyperus textilis is used for very popular seating mats, whereas Juncus krausi is used for very durable but short mats. And then to your right are your common species for brooms used in the area. Now moving down to games, traditional games. One interesting game is a game played with the plant species in the center, Euphorbia bliperifolia. This plant can grow to sometimes up to like 1 meter and big. So what boys do is they will roll it down slope. You've got 2 teams standing on either side. What they do is make like arrow-like sticks from Pivotal lanceolata and try and launch it into this rolling stem in a way that you can try and stop it. In the end, you then accumulate points and become a winner. So this is where they normally identify brave guys who can be future leaders or whatever. And in the very same game, there's the brave one who stayed in front of it, because remember, as it rolls down, it gains momentum. So those stand at the bottom are regarded as the brave ones. And then the next game is played with finished reclinata. In this game, it's played on either side of a stream or a river. So what we do is we take mud from the river banks, put it onto a rechis, then you launch it to your opponents. The aim is to try and push them out of the territory. And then for examples of plant species used for traditional toys. When it comes to basketry, weaving, and ropes, it's simple and straightforward. But what you see there under weaving is a tummy belt normally worn by women after giving birth, just to shape their tummies. And then cosmetics, Helenius integrifolius, the leaves are used as soap, whereas Vangueria is the rootstock. Greva occidentalis is the bark and the leaves for removing dandruff, and then Cassipuria molosana is the bark for skin lightening. Whereas dental care with Digitaria eriantha is the leaves is used for brushing, whereas the columns are used for flossing. Now moving to perfumes and repellents. With perfumes and repellents, these highly aromatic plant species that you see under perfumes are administered as steam bath. Boiling water, you steam, you could take out for the perfume. With repellents, you commonly find in most households, Sulbaca violacea planted around the yard to deter snakes. It's very pungent. Whereas Lipa javanica ulfarded in roof eaves to give a nice smell to some people. Some people it's not so good smelling, but it repels mosquitoes. And then dyes and tans, the most popular one is Elaudendron croatium for red dye. And then for hide tanning, the commonly used species is Entada. elephantina for high tanning. It's very rare. And then indicators of time. So you can imagine people didn't have calendars, wouldn't know what time it was of the year and things like that. So time was in the flower, in the flowering time. You knew if the prunus is in flower, it's springtime, around August, mid-August. Scadopsis prunaceae is around late August. It's time to start plowing. They knew. And another example is Vacilla natalicia. They knew that you have 2 rounds of flowering beans. Before it flowers, you can plow it. Once it flowers, you can't plow because it's now too hot, and it's known to be the last species to flower. It's the last Vacilla species to flower in the year. And in hunting and fishing, simple and straightforward again. But an interesting species here is Olena radiata, which is used. It's got very aromatic leaves. What they do is they'll take the leaves, crush them, put them onto a noose to try and lure game. And then with fishing, people normally use a lot of phlegmatic species, sometimes even arundo, as fishing rods. And then other uses, so here there's a range of uses, but 2 species that stand out for me is Legionnaria cereraria, where the gourd is used to make numerous kitchen utensils, many even musical tools, many instruments. So is Phragmites mauritianus, again, musical instruments, ear cleaning tools. So what they do with this one, with Phragmites, take a column, bend the one end, the other end into your ear, bend the one side. So it draws out purse, sometimes little insects. And then Cyperus dives is used as a cutting tool. During midwifery, when someone is delivering, they will use, it's got very serrated and sharp edges to cut certain parts. And then now we move to species with the highest number of individual uses. Top species are Finnish reclinata and Aristida junciformis. And the text written in bold there are your newly recorded records for the Zulu people. And then now move to quantification. This is where we try to see which plant species are known by everyone in the area, or just to see, to gauge a relative knowledge of how much people know and which species are important for the culture and things like that. And then to your right, are species that are culturally important for that culture. So in this case, it's how diverse the species is and how versatile it is when it comes to uses. And then with level of knowledge, what is surprising, because there's a general thought that the most important use for plants is for medicinal. People tend to overlook the other uses. So it's quite surprising that craft uses got the highest overall against other categories of use. So in conclusion, it is very obvious that this knowledge is still poorly recorded. And it is the first time that we quantify ethnobotanical knowledge. And as you can see, the novelty in red. So moving back to craft plants, so there's a breakdown of how much species were how much knowledge was recorded for the first time in the study. So in closing, I'm quite proud and happy that what we've recorded here will serve as a benchmark, will help future generations for further research, and will also contribute to the cultural heritage of the Zulu people and the people of South Africa at large. So I want to thank the University of Johannesburg, SEB, National Research Fund for funding my studies, the people of Amandawe who trusted me with their knowledge, who trusted me as their knowledge bank, given their time, who contributed knowledge and everything. And at the bottom is my supervisor, Prof. Eric van Wyk, who suggested the study, who helped, and the chief of the area, who's now late, who was very instrumental in doing this, in carrying out this survey. He was very supportive. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much, Lloyd. We do not have any time really for questions. Is there one person question? Yes.
2, 1, let's go. Lloyd. Lloyd. The structure. There could be, it's a good question. I'm not sure, but there could be. Because what they told me is that it keeps it fresh, so maybe it retains that potency. I don't know. Next question.
So your first slide showed the Zulu movement south in Africa, and I'm curious how the biodiversity changes from the original homeland to the current location. If there's a lot of similarity in the biodiversity, or are they learning new species?
Well, I wouldn't be very sure because it happened quite a long time. Yeah, so to be honest, I'm not sure.
All right, let's go ahead.